Once upon a time, in the bustling heart of Lagos, Nigeria, there lived a wealthy and handsome young billionaire named Obinna Okafor. He was the heir to the vast Okafor dynasty, a family that had built a financial empire spanning across real estate, oil, and technology. Despite his wealth, Obinna had one problem that troubled him deeply: he had never found true love. Women admired him for his status, his wealth, and his striking looks. They would shower him with affection, but deep in his heart, he knew their love was not for the man he was but for what he possessed. He longed for a woman who would love him without knowing his wealth, a woman who would choose him for his character, not his money. Growing up in luxury had always made relationships complicated for Obinna. His parents had tried to arrange marriages with women from equally wealthy families, but he found those matches shallow. They were more about business mergers than love. One evening, as he sat by the lagoon, watching the sun set over the city, he conceived a daring plan. He would go undercover as a poor taxi driver to find true love. It was a bold move, but he knew it was the only way to find a woman who would love him for himself and not his riches. That night, he lay awake in bed, considering the risks of his plan. Would he be able to endure the challenges of life without luxury? Would he find someone who would love him without knowing his wealth? He decided it was worth trying. The next day, Obinna put his plan into action. He dressed in simple clothes, abandoning his designer suits for a plain shirt and worn-out jeans. He borrowed an old, dusty taxi from one of his family's employees, Chief Udo, who had been with the Okafors for decades. Chief Udo chuckled when he heard Obinna's plan. "Oga, dis one na big risk oh. Weddin' go happen if dem no respect you again?" Obinna only smiled. "I need to know the truth, Udo. I need to find someone who loves me for me." And so, he started his journey as a humble taxi driver, navigating the chaotic streets of Lagos. The first day was tougher than he had imagined. The heat was unbearable, and the traffic was endless. He quickly realized how differently people treated him now that he was not in his usual elite circles. Some passengers insulted him, others were rude, and many looked down on him, assuming he was just another struggling driver. There were moments when he almost abandoned his plan. A rich man in his expensive car had thrown money at him in disdain, calling him just another poor hustler. The experience stung, but he reminded himself why he was doing this. As the days passed, he adapted to the new life. He learned the routes, the slang, and the struggles of everyday Lagosians. He ate at roadside stalls, laughed with fellow taxi drivers, and slowly blended into the world he once overlooked. One fateful evening, as he waited near a busy market, a young woman named Ada hailed his taxi. She was beautiful, with deep brown eyes and a heartwarming smile. But more than her beauty, it was her humble nature that caught his attention. Ada worked as a seamstress in the marketplace. She was hardworking, ambitious, and full of laughter, despite the hardships life had thrown at her. She treated Obinna with kindness, never looking down on him as others had. Over time, she became his favorite passenger. Their conversations became the highlight of his day. She spoke about her dreams of owning her own fashion store, of designing clothes for people beyond the marketplace. She told him about her struggles, how she had to drop out of school to take care of her sick mother, how she worked tirelessly to make ends meet. Obinna found himself drawn to her spirit, her resilience, and her honesty. Little did she know, the simple taxi driver she had befriended was one of the wealthiest men in the city. One evening, as he dropped her off at her small apartment, he finally gathered the courage to ask, "Ada, do you believe that love should be based on riches or on the heart?" She smiled softly. "A true heart is more valuable than gold. Wealth can fade, but love should be strong enough to withstand the storms of life." Obinna's heart swelled with admiration. For the first time, he had found someone who truly believed in love beyond material things. Obinna had never considered himself a man who needed companionship to feel complete, but with Ada, something was different. He found himself seeking her out, looking for excuses to be near her. He would alter his routes just to extend their conversations, savoring the way she spoke about life, her laughter ringing like a melody in his ears. She had a way of making the ordinary seem magical. A simple walk down a dusty street turned into an adventure of shared observations and spontaneous jokes. When the sun dipped beneath the horizon and the sky was bathed in orange hues, he would glance at her and feel a strange sense of peace. One evening, as they walked past the bustling marketplace, Ada stopped abruptly. "Obinna, would you like to have dinner at my place?" Obinna hesitated for only a second before nodding. "I'd love to." Her small apartment was modest but welcoming. The scent of fresh spices and simmering tomatoes filled the air as she prepared jollof rice and fried plantain. Obinna sat cross-legged on the floor, watching her move gracefully between the tiny kitchen space and the dining area. When she finally joined him, they ate together, sharing childhood stories between bites. "You are different, Obinna," she said suddenly, her gaze thoughtful. "Most men I know only care about money, but you have dreams beyond just survival." Obinna's heart clenched. If only she knew. He was living two lives, one filled with wealth and influence, the other defined by simple joys and moments like this. He smiled, pushing aside his thoughts. Dreams make life worth living. She tilted her head, studying him. "Tell me, what is your dream?" Obinna hesitated. "To be remembered for something more than wealth. To live a life that matters." A slow smile spread across her face. "I like that." From that night onward, their bond deepened. He found himself bringing her small gifts, fresh fruits from the market, handmade trinkets that reminded him of her, or books he thought she might enjoy. He never wanted her to feel as though he was offering charity, he simply wanted to brighten her days. He fixed the broken latch on her door, changed the flickering bulb in her sitting room, and even offered to drive her home when it was late. Each gesture, no matter how small, was filled with unspoken affection. One evening, they sat beneath the vast sky, the stars twinkling above them. A cool breeze whispered through the trees, rustling Ada's loose braids. She let out a deep sigh, her voice softer than usual. "I once loved a man who left me because I wasn't rich enough. He said he needed a woman who could add value to his life." Obinna's chest tightened. He clenched his fists, feeling a surge of anger toward the faceless man who had hurt her. "Then he was a fool," he said firmly. "You are worth more than all the riches in the world." She turned to him, her dark eyes shimmering in the moonlight. "You are different, Obinna. I am lucky to have met you." He swallowed the lump in his throat. If only she knew the truth, that he was not the struggling taxi driver she thought he was. That he came from a world of privilege she despised. But for now, he wanted to hold on to this fragile, beautiful connection they had built. He looked up at the stars and silently wished that when the truth came out, she would still see him the same way. As much as Obinna enjoyed his double life, it soon became difficult to maintain. Juggling his identity as a taxi driver by day and a businessman by night required careful planning. He had mastered the art of deception, but even the most skillful actors slip up eventually. One breezy afternoon, as he was driving Ada through Victoria Island, the unexpected happened. At a traffic light near an upscale shopping complex, a sleek black SUV pulled up beside them. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a familiar face, Chief Ease, an influential businessman and one of Obinna's high-profile associates. "Obinna? Is that you?" Chief Ease's voice carried the weight of disbelief. His sharp eyes scanned the worn-out taxi, then darted back to Obinna. "What are you doing in this old taxi?" Obinna's grip on the steering wheel tightened. His mind raced for an explanation that wouldn't shatter the fragile illusion he had carefully built. Thinking quickly, he forced a hearty laugh. "Ah, Chief. Just helping a friend out for the day. You know how life is, sometimes, you must step away from the luxury to understand the streets." Chief Ease raised a skeptical brow. Is that so? He chuckled, but there was an edge of curiosity in his gaze. You're full of surprises, my friend. As the light turned green, Obinna nodded and accelerated forward, leaving Chief Ease watching after them. He could feel Ada's eyes on him, her silence thick with questions. For the rest of the ride, she said nothing, but he knew her mind was working. Later that evening, as they walked along the beach, the sun setting in hues of gold and crimson, she finally spoke. Obinna, who are you really? He hesitated. The waves crashed softly against the shore, mirroring the turbulence in his heart. He had spent years perfecting the balance between his two lives, but now the walls were closing in. Ada's gaze was steady, filled with a quiet determination. I'm just a man looking for something real, Ada. She studied his face for a long moment before smiling softly and taking his hand. Then I hope you find it. Obinna exhaled, but the tension remained. The moment of reckoning was coming, sooner than he had anticipated. And when it did, he wasn't sure if Ada would still be by his side.